The weight of the stripes. The alarm screamed at exactly 5 a.m. Private Ethan Cole opened his eyes before it could ring a second time. Around him, 30 other soldiers climbed out of their bunks without a word. No one complained. No one rolled over for 5 more minutes. 5 months ago, Ethan had been a college student. He stayed up until 2 in the morning playing video games and rarely made his first class on time. Now he had exactly 15 minutes. 15 minutes to shave. 15 minutes to make his bed so tightly that a coin could bounce off the blanket. 15 minutes to put on his uniform perfectly. At 5:15, the barracks were spotless. At 5:30, the platoon stood outside in formation. The morning air was cold. Sergeant Ramirez walked slowly down the line, inspecting every soldier. "Cole." "Yes, Sergeant." "Your boots." Ethan looked down. One boot wasn't polished as well as the other. "You had 15 minutes." "Yes, Sergeant." "You'll remember tomorrow." "Yes, Sergeant." No yelling, no insults, just a lesson. The military noticed details because details mattered. A forgotten buckle, an unloaded radio, a loose helmet. Small mistakes could become big ones. Physical training began immediately. They ran 5 miles before sunrise. Then push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, obstacle courses. By the time breakfast arrived, Ethan felt like he'd already worked an entire day. Yet the day had only just begun. After breakfast came weapons maintenance. Every rifle had to be cleaned, every part inspected, every serial number accounted for. "You don't own this rifle," Sergeant Ramirez reminded them. "The American people do. You're responsible for taking care of it." The soldiers cleaned every corner until the metal reflected the lights above them. When they finished, they moved into classrooms. Map reading, first aid, radio communication, military law, navigation, leadership. The military wasn't simply teaching people how to fight, it was teaching them how to think under pressure. One afternoon, Ethan watched Sergeant Ramirez helping another private who had failed a navigation exercise. Instead of yelling, the sergeant walked beside him through the course. "Show me where you got lost." The private pointed at his map. Ramirez smiled. "You didn't fail because you're stupid. You failed because you rushed." He folded the map. "Slow down. Think. Then move." Those words stayed with Ethan. Slow down. Think. Then move. Months later, Ethan graduated from training. Standing in his dress uniform, he looked around at the soldiers who had become like family. Some would become mechanics, some medics, some engineers, some infantry. Different jobs, same uniform, same commitment. As his parents pinned his insignia onto his chest, his father smiled proudly. "I barely recognize you." Ethan smiled back. "I barely recognize myself." 4 years later, "Squad, fall in!" The voice echoing across the motor pool belonged to Sergeant Ethan Cole. He wasn't the nervous recruit anymore. Now 12 soldiers stood waiting for his instructions. His mornings began long before theirs. At 4:30 a.m., he checked schedules. He reviewed training plans. He made sure vehicles had fuel. He verified attendance. He completed paperwork that no one ever saw. The soldiers assumed he simply showed up. They never realized he'd already been working for an hour. Leading people turned out to be harder than following orders. One soldier had twisted his ankle. Another had just become a father and hadn't slept in days. Another struggled to qualify with his rifle. A new private constantly forgot equipment. Every day someone needed guidance. Every day someone needed correction. Every day someone needed encouragement. One afternoon, the youngest soldier approached Ethan. "Sergeant, I'm not sure I belong here." Ethan remembered saying almost the exact same thing years ago. He sat beside him. "You know what Sergeant Ramirez told me?" The young soldier shook his head. "He said nobody arrives here already great. The military builds you. It doesn't expect perfection." The soldier smiled. "I needed to hear that." Ethan nodded. "So did I." Leadership wasn't about shouting the loudest. It was about earning trust. When his soldiers made mistakes, Ethan corrected them. When they succeeded, he gave them the credit. When something went wrong, he accepted responsibility. Slowly, he understood why Sergeant Ramirez had always seemed calm. Confidence came from experience. One evening, after everyone had gone home, Ethan stayed behind helping a private repair equipment. The soldier looked surprised. "Sergeant, You didn't have to stay. Ethan tightened a bolt. Neither did Sergeant Ramirez. The private smiled. In that moment, Ethan realized leadership wasn't taught in classrooms. It was passed from one generation of soldiers to the next. 7 years later, Captain Ethan Cole walked into headquarters carrying a laptop instead of a rifle. The room looked nothing like the barracks. Large digital maps covered the walls. Screens displayed weather reports, training calendars, vehicle availability, medical readiness, supply levels. Instead of leading 12 soldiers, he now managed hundreds. Every morning started with briefings. Every afternoon involved meetings. Every evening ended with reports. People often imagined officers leading charges across battlefields. Reality looked very different. Captain Cole spent hours coordinating transportation, scheduling training, approving leave requests, managing budgets, reviewing maintenance reports, ensuring every soldier had the equipment they needed. Without logistics, nothing moved. One day, a lieutenant entered his office. "Sir, we've got a problem." Captain Cole looked up. "What happened?" "The exercise has doubled in size. Transportation? Not enough buses. Fuel? Short. Medical support? Behind schedule." The lieutenant looked nervous. "What do we do?" Captain Cole smiled. "We solve one problem at a time." They spent the next 6 hours rearranging schedules, calling other units, finding extra vehicles, moving personnel, adjusting routes. By sunset, the exercise was back on schedule. The soldiers participating never knew how close it had come to being canceled. That was leadership. When everything worked, nobody noticed. When something failed, everyone did. Captain Cole occasionally visited the training fields. Young privates always stood a little straighter when officers walked by. One private quietly asked, "Sir, do captains ever miss being regular soldiers?" Cole laughed. "Every single day." The private looked confused. "Then why become an officer?" "Because someone has to make sure every regular soldier has what they need." 10 years later, Colonel Ethan Cole stood on a balcony overlooking thousands of soldiers preparing for a major training exercise. Rows of armored vehicles stretched across the field. Helicopters circled overhead. Convoys moved with perfect timing. Everything looked effortless. It wasn't. Months of planning had created this single morning. A young lieutenant walked beside him. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Were you ever scared?" Colonel Cole smiled. "Every promotion." The lieutenant frowned. "Really? When I became a private, I was afraid I'd fail. When I became a sergeant, I was afraid I'd fail my soldiers. When I became a captain, I was afraid I'd fail hundreds." He looked back across the base. "Now, I'm responsible for thousands." The lieutenant remained silent. Finally, he asked, "Does that feeling ever disappear?" Cole shook his head. "No. You simply learn not to let fear make your decisions." As they watched soldiers loading equipment, the lieutenant asked another question. "Sir, what's the biggest difference between ranks?" Colonel Cole smiled. "When I was a private, my job was to do things right. When I became a sergeant, my job became teaching others to do things right. As a captain, my job became organizing people. As a colonel, my job became preparing thousands of people for challenges they haven't faced yet." He looked toward the parade field. "The higher your rank, the less your day is about yourself. The more it's about everyone else." The next morning, the base woke before sunrise once again. Privates hurried to formation. Corporals checked equipment. Sergeants mentored their squads. Lieutenants coordinated platoons. Captains reviewed operations. Majors synchronized departments. Colonels oversaw the entire installation. Different ranks, different responsibilities. Yet every person wore the same flag on their shoulder. Every person had started somewhere. Every leader had once been the newest recruit standing nervously in formation. As Colonel Cole watched the first rays of sunlight shine across the base, he remembered Sergeant Ramirez correcting his unpolished boot all those years ago. Back then, he thought military life was about becoming tougher. He was wrong. It was about becoming more dependable, more disciplined, more selfless. The uniform never made someone a leader. The choices they made while wearing it did. And every morning, before the sun rose, another generation of young men and women answered the same alarm clock, ready to carry the weight of their own stripes. The end.